Building plans, when made for conceptual design stage, differ from the building plans which have been detailed during the design development stage or the working drawing stage. A dogleg staircase is one element which is drafted out in a very typical manner without actually understanding the implication of the same. Whenever building plans are drawn and drafting of a staircase is done, we first make the edge of the staircase in the form of the stairwell. Then we start making parallel lines to make steps. Thus we get one flight which is rising up to the mid landing and another which is rising up from the mid landing and taking to the next level or floor. This is a typical way of drafting a dogleg staircase. Let us now derive the section of the staircase from the plan that we drafted and see how it affects the parts of the staircase. A section plane generally cuts through the first flight rising from a staircase, with the other flight visible in the elevation behind it. Thus we will see this flight in front in section with an RCC waist slab and brick steps on that. Beyond this, we see the elevation of the flight rising from the mid landing. For our understanding, we will make its waist slab and the brick steps also. This is the waist slab which is coming down and meeting the plinth beam below. Here we have drafted out the first flight, taking projections down from the plan that was made. The flight is complete with its waist slab joining the plinth beam below and the brick steps on them. Let us now draft the flight behind, taking projections from the plan and then complete the section. This is the flight which is rising up from the mid landing to go to the floor above. This is the waist slab of the second flight which is starting from the mid landing and rising up. Over this we have the brick steps. Let us now understand a few conditions of the waist slabs meeting the mid landing. Seeing the soffit of the mid landing and the waist slabs, this is where the yellow waist slab turns down to meet the plinth beam. Understanding the turning of the waist slab of the flight rising up from the mid landing, we see that the fold of this second flight starts slightly ahead of the turning of the first waist slab. Thus the turning of the yellow waist slab and the slab beyond are not aligned. You may see mismatched meeting of the mid landing and the two waist slabs. This will give an L shape to the soffit of the mid landing. We will now make the handrail of the first flight rising up. And the handrail of the second flight. The two handrails rise parallel to the flight and secure the unprotected edges of the two flights. For the two handrails to meet at the same elevation, they should extend into the space of the mid landing. If we do not want to lose the space of the mid landing, then we should either have a connection which is diagonal or which is bent. Some may take this as a bad detail. Thus, in a typical layout of a dogleg staircase, where we start from the plan and then derive its section, the soffit of the mid landing may not be clean and the handrails may not meet properly. Some architects are very particular about this detail and may not like this situation. As far as going up or down the staircase is concerned, there is no problem in such a configuration. Taking cue from this first case, we will try to resolve the two issues in a new drawing, where we will now reverse the process of drawing the staircase. So we will start first with the section of the staircase and then derive the plan from it. This is the waist slab of the first flight rising up in the dogleg staircase. And we will try to remove this mismatch in this new section. We will make the waist slab of the second flight first. The rise of this waist slab will be taken in line with the end of the first waist slab. So, the first waist slab rises up and meets the mid landing at this line, and from the same edge, the waist slab of the second flight also rises. Let us now complete this section by making the steps on these two waist slabs. These are the steps of the first flight. These are the steps of the second flight. Let us compare these two sections. In case 1, the two risers right next to the mid landing are in one line in plan. Whereas in case 2, this last riser of the first flight is shifted by approximately 1 tread in comparison to the first riser of the second flight. Thus we can see in the two cases that there is a difference in the alignment of the risers. Let us make the handrail of the two flights now. See the meeting of the two handrails around the mid landing. If we bring them to the same level from the mid landing, they can have a good horizontal connection. Further, they do not obstruct the space in the mid landing. So we have solved two issues here. First, we have an aligned turning of the waist slabs. Secondly, we have a better connection between the handrails. So, we have made the section first here. In case 1, we had derived the section from the plan. In case 2, we will derive the plan from the section. This of course will be done by taking projections from the section. This is the section line, and we rise up this way. The edges of treads may not align between the two flights. In this plan, you can again verify that the two risers right next to the mid landing are not aligned, and these edges of the treads are not necessarily in line. There is a variation in the width of the two mid landings. A is minimum width of the flight as per bylaws. B is bigger than that. Try out the same exercise for a quarter turn staircase also. It also poses similar problem. And as depicted in these visuals, the final mid landing may not be a square one. I hope this information was useful. If you found that useful, please like and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot.